Hi and welcome to the vlog. I'm Tova and I'm sitting here with Elin, who is, despite being very tired, is actually in a very good mood tonight. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to record one of the requested vlogs. I have had a request to tell you guys a bit more about Elin, like what her condition is and the kinds of things that we do for her and that she can and can't do and things like that. And I thought I'd tell you why Elin is disabled, and this is not something I've actually really talked about. And the reason for that is because it's quite traumatic to recall. I'm gonna interject with a quick trigger warning here. I'm about to tell you Elin's birth story. And if you know that you're triggered by that kind of thing, but you're still really curious about Elin's condition and equipment and techniques we use with her, then I'd suggest you skip ahead to, it's gonna be around 5.5 minutes. That I go into that, and I've left the difficult topics. It is a long vlog, but if you stick it out till the end, you're going to hear some really, really lovely interaction and communication from her as she's joining in. And as always, I love having you with me on this journey, so thank you for being here. If you're not already a subscriber, then please hit subscribe and the notifications bell so you don't miss any videos. A like button is always encouraging, comments are always encouraging, and if you share my videos, then that really helps me to grow this channel. So once again, thank you for all your support, and back to the vlog. As long as Elin was on the inside, everything was absolutely fine. I was pregnant with a very healthy baby. I did not have an easy pregnancy. I don't have easy pregnancies. I end up being in an awful lot of pain, hip pain, unable to walk. And I was really, really struggling throughout my pregnancy with Elin. I also have thyroid issues myself, which means that when I'm pregnant, the NHS are a little bit nervous and keep a very, very close eye on me. So I think I had 7 scans in total with Elin, 7 ultrasound scans. And all throughout, everything was fine with the baby. The baby was growing as expected, everything was looking great, heartbeat was fine, movement was fine. And then somehow in the last few hours inside, she opened her bowels and inhaled it. So I actually never went into labour with Elin. She was 10 days overdue. I didn't go into labour. I went into hospital because the baby had stopped moving. And then started a sort of long drawn out thing of, we don't know if your waters have gone, we don't know if there was a meconium in the water, the baby's heart rate is high, but it's stable high, so we're not going to panic. And eventually they kind of went, right, well, we have to pull the plug on this. And it went into an emergency C-section, and things were not good. They were not good at all. If you've heard about the APGAR score, which is something they use to measure how well baby's doing at birth, Elin's first APGAR score was 1. And the likelihood of a baby with an APGAR score of 1 to survive is actually quite slim. With the meconium in her lungs, the pressure in her lungs was so high that there was no blood flow to them, because the pressure in the lungs was higher than the blood pressure in the rest of her body. So even though they got her breathing, she suffered probably over 10 minutes of oxygen deprivation, which caused massive damage to her brain, liver, kidneys, and of course the meconium and the pressure issues caused damage to her lungs. Whew. So that was it. We suddenly had a baby with grade 2 hypoxic brain injuries. Hypoxic means oxygen deprivation. So she was whisked off into intensive care where they were fighting to save her life. I was put in some recovery area which felt like a corridor. It probably wasn't a corridor, but I remember it as a corridor, where I sat for 2 hours, not really knowing what was going on. And Rob, Elin's dad, was going back and forth trying to find out what was going on. So she was several hours old before I got to see her the first time. And then when she was about 12 hours old, the pressure in her lungs destabilized again. And it destabilized rapidly. So they called in an ambulance from Luton. She was born at Stevenage Hospital. They called in an ambulance from Luton with nitric oxide, and it took 2 ambulance crews 12 hours to stabilize her enough to dare to move her. So that was the start of her life. Yes, she's got the brain injuries to boot from that kind of start. She has quite extensive brain injuries. They are all over her brain, affecting pretty much every part of her. But she's a happy child. And also she's got a yummy cloth here. I actually think she's a bit hungry, so maybe I should move on a bit. Yay! Speed up, mummy! Speed up, mummy! I want some food! I want some food as well. I have a tagine in the oven and it smells divine and it's driving me mad. The main diagnosis is quadriplegic cerebral palsy with high tone. Quadriplegic meaning all 4 limbs are affected, and it's quite severe cerebral palsy. She's very, very tense. She absolutely can't walk on herself, by herself, weight bear by herself, pick things up by herself. She needs help with everything. We also have a diagnosis of non-epileptic seizure disorder. That it's a diagnosis of non-epileptic because it doesn't show up as epilepsy on the MRI scans, but it looks like epilepsy. It looks like absent seizures, partial focal seizures, and lately tonic, clonic seizures, because she's decided to throw another one in the mix. And it's an ongoing kind of observe and record and discuss with neurologists and specialist pediatricians and trying to get somewhere with that. So she is medicating for them. We are about to review her seizure medication protocol because I don't think it's working anymore. I think she may be having a bit of a seizure right now. Either that or she's trying to poop. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Her seizures are very mild, they're very minor. We miss most of them actually, so they're not very easy to spot. She is registered as severe sight impaired blind. This is purely neurological. There's nothing wrong with her eyes, but she has damage to every part of the brain that processes visual input. And one of her optic nerves is the wrong color, meaning that nerve signals aren't going as they should. There are very few things that she's interested in looking at. She will look at trees, she will look at fairy lights. Elin has a feeding tube. At the moment, we don't give her almost anything orally. She ate orally when she was little. She actually breastfed. The doctors were afraid she wasn't going to have a suck and swallow reflex because she actually has injuries to her brainstem. But she was able to suckle and swallow. And I had such an oversupply because I actually established milk supply with a pump. She was sedated for the first 6 days of her life. So for a week, I only pumped and wasn't actually breastfeeding her, which meant that I had a massive oversupply and I kept pumping throughout as well. So I donated a lot of milk to a milk bank. And then as a baby, when she started eating, she was eating orally, but it's difficult for her to eat orally. It's very hard work for her to move food to the back of her mouth and swallow it. And she was failing to thrive. We weren't getting enough calories into her despite fighting very hard for it. And eventually we went down the route of first an NG tube, which is the one that goes through the nose, and then a PEG tube. So she's got a tube through her stomach, and we are hopefully in the not too distant future going to change this to what's called a Mickey button. So it's a flush button that sits on the skin and a loose tube that you attach to it whenever you're feeding. She has quite severe reflux disorder and she vomits an awful lot. Whenever we've done a swallow study, her swallow has been deemed to be safe, but the truth is that she does choke on her own saliva and she does choke on food when we try to give it to her. So her swallow probably isn't all that safe. Actually, one thing about her when she starts having her seizures, if it's really severe seizures, they make her vomit. And we have had her being treated in hospital for what's called aspiration pneumonia, where she's aspired her own vomit in a seizure. When the seizures get really bad, she has to go to hospital, when they're really, really bad and they don't stop. And that usually happens when she's fighting a virus. It could be a fairly mild virus, a bit of a cold, maybe a bit of tonsillitis. It's hard to say because she will have been vomiting for 24 hours before any doctor is able to actually properly look at her throat. And at that point, it's raw. But usually a virus or an infection in her body puts her into a really nasty spiral of seizures. She's on a whole host of medicines. She is on a medicine to stop her dribbling so much. She's on muscle relaxants. She's on anti-seizure medication. She's on anti-stomach acid, anti-reflux medication. I think that's it. We buy multivitamins and omega-3 in syrup form, so we can put that through the tube. Obviously paracetamol and ibuprofen in syrup form as well. Yes, we do. Yeah, and we feed her what's called a blended diet. So we blend up the food that we make and make it liquid enough that it can go through the tube she has. And then we let her have that. So she has real food now, which is really exciting because she didn't tolerate any formula, not even the hypoallergenic formula. She can take steps if she's in an appropriate walking frame. And we had a really good one at school that we were fundraising for, our school was fundraising for last year. And then it was recalled because of a problem with the harness. So I'm wondering if they've sorted that harness out and gotten that one back because she really liked it. Another thing she can do is pedal. So she has a tricycle at school that she cycles with. And then she has a stander at school as well. We don't have any of these things at home because we don't have the space. But she likes standing, and when she has her splints on, she can stand up with the support of an adult. And she's very, very proud of that. In terms of communication, most of the communication is vocalization and facial gestures. So we can ask her questions, and if the answer is yes, she'll smile, and if the answer is no, she'll just ignore us. In school, she has, with some success, been using a head button. So they put a button here, and she'll bump it with her head, and I really want us to get more of that. I would like her to have a head button on her wheelchair and be able to use it, because it's taught her to ask for attention without crying. And I think that if we could get a yes and no button, she might be able to use that. Another thing they're using in school to help her communication, oh, she knows what's coming, which surprisingly works, is eye gaze. So despite the fact that she is so vision impaired, she has successfully been using eye gaze in school. The game is called Fart Clouds. It makes farting noises. She finds it hilarious. So she's actually been using that, and that gives us some hope that we might be able to use eye gaze with her in the future. The speech and language team were very keen for us to use objects of reference. And Elin had no interest in them. If they don't make a sound, she doesn't care. So what we have been using instead is song. So we have very specific songs for very specific things. So there's a specific nappy changing song, there's a specific bedtime song. And she is, as you can tell, mostly a very happy child. She sometimes winds herself up and goes into a spin of being overtired and fed up with everything and screams and screams and screams, and it takes ages to calm her down. But then she usually actually comes out of one of those and goes into a massive fit of the giggles instead. So most of the time she's very happy. I have a recollection of her screaming non-stop for the first 2 years of her life. It's obviously not true because I do have photos of her smiling. And let's face it, whenever she was smiling, I would grab my phone and quickly get a photo of it because it was such a rare thing. She was a very, very difficult baby. Very needy, very clingy. We couldn't put her down. She wanted to be in the baby carrier the whole time, be held the whole time. She would only sleep if she had her nose in my armpit. Yeah, you. She was very, very dependent and very, very difficult. And I don't think I actually realised at the time just how difficult she was until I had her baby sister and went, oh my God, is this what babies are supposed to be like? Yeah, your sister was an easier baby than you. Oh God, you snotty child. Movement-wise and controllable movements. There is very little controllable movement with Elin. Although there is some. I mentioned that she can take steps and I mentioned that she can pedal. She will use her legs when they're free to move and in a good position for her to move them. She will use her legs to explore the world. The other thing she will use is her head. She uses her head a lot. So we have a toy which is a crab with the buttons on the top, and she'll push the button with her head to make the crab go. It's a brilliant toy. I actually need to find more toys like that because she can properly play with that one and she finds it very, very funny. Or she'll move her head around and feel things. She will snuggle with her head. She likes when it's dark, so she'll move her head up so her eyes are covered, and then she'll go into a fit of giggles of that. She has hardly any control over her arms. You can see that she's just been sitting like this the whole time. She can use buttons, but she'll press the button. She'll press the button like this. So we have to move the button to the right position and then wait for her to press down, and that can take really quite a long time. She loves funny noises, she loves strong flavours, so when the food is very, very flavorful. She'll really enjoy it going through her tube. She hates having her hair brushed, and yet I keep her hair very long. I'm really proud. I mean, obviously she's been a whole day in school with these, so they're come and done a little bit, but I'm quite proud of what I achieved today with her hair. Maybe that should be one of these quick mobile phone vlogs, me doing Elin's hair in the morning. She is incontinent, so she's using nappies. We do have a specialist toilet seat for her. It's at Dad's. She can use it, but she can't tell us she needs to go. So it's a matter of getting her on it at the right time. And this is another reason why I want her to get button, because maybe, you know, we can change the button, have one side saying hello and one side saying toilet, or I don't know, but this is a girl who can communicate. She's not shut off from the world, and it's just a matter of us to find the right means to help her communicate. And I'm sure we'll find it. I'm very open to ideas, so if you have ideas, please throw them my way, and I can, in all my spare time, start looking into it. I honestly don't know what's out there, what's available. I really don't, but I'm sure we'll find it one day. We'll find the right thing. Yes. She does have a tablet. She has an iPad with some apps to play with on it. I hope that covers most questions that you had about her. I'm more than happy to answer other questions about Elin. Yeah, she's a lovely child. And now I really need to go and get that tagine out of the oven and make Elin and me some dinner, because we're hungry. So with that, we're gonna say thank you so much for watching. Yes, and bye bye YouTube.